I forgot to tell you who I am again. My name is Bob Smiley. I'm a comedian. You guys are awesome. It's great being a comedian now because I can say whatever I want to and people are like, oh, you're a comedian. But when I was a kid, man, I used to get in trouble for that. Like, I remember my dad used to say this, don't get smart with me. He used to say that all the time. He'd be like, don't get smart with me. One time he said it, he goes, don't get smart with me. And I went, okay. It's like 2 + 2 is 7, you know, right? And all I remember is my mom running in, grabbing me, going, run, Forrest, run, right? Because and this is gonna be I don't know, a hot topic, but because when I grew up, I got spanked. That's how I got disciplined, right? Like, did you guys? Is that the way you guys grew up? Okay, all right. Some people are against spankings. I had a lady come up to me one time at a show and she goes, you're advocating child abuse. You should never spank your children. And I was like, well, have you read Proverbs where it talks about it? And she was like, well, that was different. That was the Old Testament. They didn't have time out back then. And I was like, what? It's like, yeah, they did. What was the lion's den, huh? You know, because spanking worked on me. And I've got 3 kids, 3 tax deductions at home. And, you know, we didn't know if we were going to spank our children, but we got the James Dobson Strong-Willed Child book. And that helped us a lot because it was thick enough that when we spanked them, yeah. I just know it worked on me. There were times I deserved it. One time I was down front, my dad used to lead singing, and he said this. He goes, on this next song, let's all stand to our feet. And I don't know why I said this, but I was like, yeah, everybody, let's stand to our feet. Good thing he said that. I almost stood in my liver. We never sang that song, man. My dad just shut the book, walked right down. He took me outside and spanked me. And guys, man, I deserved it, but it was embarrassing because it was right in front of my wife. But even when I was a kid, and I got my little condition where I say whatever pops in my mind from my dad, because my dad does that. Like, in fact, the first time I ever saw a kid with his picture on a milk carton, I didn't realize it meant he was lost. I just thought he got his picture on a milk carton, and back then I used to have an ego, so I ran in my dad's office and I was like, I want my picture on a milk carton. My dad was like, oh man, so do I. So I come by it naturally. My dad used to pull pranks on me because I was very slow when I was a kid. In fact, I wasn't going to tell this, but I think I have time because they're setting up. But like, this is how slow I was. My dad played me a tape a couple of weeks ago of me trying to say the books of the New Testament in front of my church when I was a kid. I totally forgot how slow I was when I was a kid, but I was up there going Matthew, Mark, Luke, Leia, C3PO, Chewbacca, Romans, Galatians, Ephesians, Donner, Cupid, Blitzen, first and second, third gear, Sleepy, Dopey, Doc, Jude, Law, and a partridge in a pear tree. Dude. I was like, my dad was laughing. I was like, man, come on, college was hard. But my dad would pull pranks on me, man. And somebody actually asked me to tell this. I was hanging out at my merch table back there, and somebody asked me to tell this. But this is a true story. This is how slow I was. My dad told me we were too poor to afford a dog. So if a burglar broke in, I was supposed to bark at him. So the worst part is the true story was it happened my freshman year in high school, right? So I'm only a freshman in high school, so I'm scared to death, you know, because I'm just, you know, I'm laying in bed, I'm 18, and this guy breaks in our living room, and he's unplugging our TV, and I'm scared to death, but, you know, I got a job to do, right? So I threw the covers off. I didn't even really have a game plan. I just ran up to him as he was unplugging the TV, and I just went, and it worked. He just saw me barking at him and he just froze, and then he just let me smell his hand and slowly backed out of the living room. My dad came in, he's all proud of me. He came over and he rubbed my belly, and it was good. It's weird because my dad and I have the same kind of mindset, but we look totally opposite. My dad weighs 280 pounds. He's 5'7". It's awesome. I could stand next to him. We look like the number 10. And he's always been big. He loves it too. I asked my grandmother, I was like, was he skinny like me when he was young? She was like, no. I was like, really? She goes, Bob, he was born on a Thursday and a Friday. So, big, huge guy. And he's a Christian too. He was a good Christian guy. And although the only thing he does that's kind of not Christian is he has road rage. Like, he gets angry really quick. But he's still a Christian about it. So it's kind of funny. Like, he doesn't cuss, but he, I don't know if you guys do this up here, but he uses words from the Old Testament, so it sounds like he's cussing. Anybody do that? It's the weirdest thing to hear. Like, the first time I heard it, my dad slammed his hand in a car door and he's like, ow! Shadrach! Oh! Oh, son of a Abednego! Oh! I don't know why I told you that. So read your Bible, kids. But I actually have time to tell this. I want to tell one more quick story about how, like, I was very slow and my dad would always pull pranks on me. And it happened at the kiddie casino place, the place where parents take the kids to gamble, what's it called? You guys may not have it up here. Chuck E. Cheese. You guys have that? You know what I'm talking about? You know, hey kids, let's go work on your cholesterol and your gambling habit. Yeah, that's great. I was doing a show at a church the other night, and this lady came up and she's like, that is not a casino for kids. I'm like, let's get it straight. You have to go through a turnstile. There's no clocks on the wall. There's a 6-foot mafia rat walking around handing out tokens. Casino. So, my parents dropped my brother and I off, and man, we had a great time. I'd done really well at the skee ball table that night. I'd left 200 tickets up, and when I just did that to see who gambles. Anyway, so when I cashed out, I bought one of those rubber sticky hand things that you can sling out. And so when I got in the car, my dad, who loves to pull pranks on me, decided to pull a little prank on me. He leaned over and he turned on country music and started blaring it. Now, here's the deal. I know there's like maybe 18,000 people here today. I am not against country music. I don't want to make people mad, right? Like, I'm sure there's some good country music out there, but the music he was playing was that old school, mindless, get in the middle of your brain and eat your brain from the inside out type song. You know what I'm talking about? Songs like lang, 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 lang. You know, right? Horrible music. And I grew up in a town with only 281 people in it, so it was mostly country anyway. In fact, we only had a school and we had a little store, and it wasn't even a real store. It was called a drive-through tobacco barn. So I don't even know what happens there. I guess rednecks pull up and are like, yeah, fill her up, please, you know. So anyway, I got in the car and then my dad was playing this music. Plus it was country music that we shouldn't even be listening to as Christians, because they would have songs like, if I can't be number 1 in your heart, then number 2 on you. And I was like, so I'm sitting in the back and I'm like, oh, this is horrible, this is terrible. You know, I wish there was something I could do, because I wanted to stop it, but I didn't want to say to my dad, turn that radio. So I was like, what am I going to do? And then I was like, hey. And I just bought a rubber sticky hand thing. So I thought to myself, I bet you I could sling that between my mom and my dad and hit one of the radio buttons and change the channel. So I prayed about it. No, you should always pray before you do any kind of mission work. So, I'm sitting in the back. I don't even know if it's going to work or not, but all of a sudden I was just like that. Not only did that hand go straight between my mom and my dad and hit a radio button, it hit my button, which was programmed into a rock and roll channel in Dallas, Texas, 97.1 The Eagle. So it went from lang, 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 lang to welcome to the jungle. And my dad was like, ah! But obviously in a guy's voice. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? So, my dad and my parents, if you've never heard me do stand-up comedy before, my parents are ultra-conservative Christians. They're awesome people. But my dad was wigging out. He later told me he thought Satan had possessed his radio. And so my ultra-conservative Christian parents started doing things I've never seen them before do. My dad started laying hands on the radio, praying over it. My mom started talking in tongues, which I could totally tell she was faking, because she was like, I bought a Mazda, should have bought a Honda. So I was like, boom, boom, back in my hand, back in my pocket. My dad finally grabs the steering wheel and he's like, oh my gosh, what happened? And I was like,